Welcome back to the Ask Uncle Lee segment of this channel. And if you are new here, this is where you can ask any questions you want to about spirituality, witchcraft, magic, occultism, demonolatry, all of that stuff. And I'll just ask it, put the question, or if you want a perspective on something, different opinion, put in the comments to one of these videos, and I'll add it to the list and do my best to answer it. All right. So I'll try and do like 3 questions each week. So let's get on with it. Join me over on Patreon, where you will find all of my books, services, and courses in the shop, blog posts, and the various tiers which you can explore. You can get magical training in the Temple of the Horned Serpent First Degree, and joining as a free member gets you started with that. Or explore the Magical Journal and the Egregore Project. Hope to see you there. Alright, so the first question of today is from Neonite222. Hello Lee, hello, how are you? Haven't been here in a while, and I gotta say I love the fancy background you're now using. Thank you, I'm glad you're back. Looks really cool, that's cool. Alright, when I started practicing years ago, I learned to do a protective circle, calling on the elements for every single ritual, and even though I am now practicing on a very different path than back then, I still kept doing this, only for bigger rituals and spell work, though. It was great having a breakdown of this topic in this video. Thank you for sharing. Pleasure. I'll cut that off. I'm not sure which video it was in reference to, but that's okay. Also, this topic reminds me I wanted to send you a question for Ask Uncle Lee. I think that I have heard from S. Connolly a while ago, as far as I remember it was in one of her videos, that she doesn't really use a lot of protection magic in general because the demons she works with are protecting her and her home constantly. So she doesn't really need to do anything else for that. I was wondering what your thoughts on this would be. Don't know if this would be a big enough question for a Monday Musing or Ask Uncle Lee. Hope you're having a great week so far. I am, thank you very much. Been a very busy week this week anyway. Alright, so yeah, no, I kind of agree. I think when we are working with spirits, quite often those spirits will guard and protect us. We can ask them to come and ward us, for instance. So let me just push myself over a bit. Let me just make sure I go in the right direction. There we go. So we can ask them to come and ward us, not just us, but our home, our friends, our family, and all of those things. And that's quite often what happens. People who don't work with spirits can do the same thing. They would just be working with usually like the elemental energies or things like that, or some kind of natural forces, or even you can call the energy of emotions and work with them for protection. So there's a lot of ways you can actually, a lot of different energies you can work with to actually ward and create protections. I find myself that, yes, I work with these particular spirits, and they are very protective. You can, you can call your house spirit. It's probably one of the best methods, actually, is just to build a good relationship with your house spirit, and particularly in relation to being in your home, you're going to be guarded and protected, because that house spirit's going to protect you at all costs, because they love you. If you've built that relationship, then you have a very good relationship with them. So, does that as well. But yeah, I would say, I would agree, working with the sonic spirits directly and building a good relationship with them, they are very protective. This is going to differ from anybody who is working ceremonial magic and in a Solomonic grimoire approach, where they are threatening and binding. Because if you are threatening a spirit, they're not going to want to protect you. As soon as they can get away from you, they're going to leave. and if they have to fight their way out, they're going to fight their way out, and you're going to get hurt. But this is completely different. This is building good relationships with these spirits, as you would with your, gods and goddesses from any pantheon. And because you've built good relationships with them, they're going to want to help you. I want to help them, they're going to want to help me. It's tit for tat type of thing. Give respect, get respect back. So that's really what it boils down to. If you were calling on the elements, you were probably calling on the watchtowers, and this, in the same regard, is the same thing. If you actually take the idea of the watchtowers in relation to Golden Dawn type workings, I'm going to even say Wicca, Neo-Wicca specifically, where you are calling the elemental kings from as far as I can tell, originated from Levi. You've got Paracelsus and people like that prior to that, who spoke about the elementals themselves, but I think the kings actually originated with Levi. But you got Peralda, Nixo, and Gobe. And if you then relate that to the watchtowers, and that can then become the archangels that we work with within ceremonial magic. It can then become within demonolatry. It's Lucifer, Phalereus, Leviathan, Belial. And so you can, these are the kind of spirits which represent the elemental forces in the cardinal points. And whether it's the archangels, it's the chthonic demonic spirits, or it's the elemental kings from the Golden Dawn approach, for instance. They're very much the same thing. I would actually say they're all the same thing. They come through with the same energy and similar in nature because they are the elemental forces themselves. We're just kind of recognizing them with particular titles and particular names, but they are the elemental forces themselves. And when we're actually relating to the watchtowers, my interpretation of the watchtowers is twofold. One, it's there to guard and protect the energy flowing in and out from a particular direction, but it's also a way station, or a point that you have to pass through in order to get to the other side. So you can actually go from this realm into the other world, but you have to pass through these watchtowers. If you look at, for instance, the Great Wall of China has got the watchtowers along the wall itself, and you kind of pass through these watchtowers, keep going through on and on and on. You can look at this in terms of the turrets on the corners of a castle, where the guards are standing and keeping watch to make sure the enemy's at bay and things like that. So protective, but also this passage through. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways we can view this. This may have actually been in relation to the video I was talking about in regards to watchtowers. So I may have just repeated myself, I don't know, but hopefully that answers the question anyway. Alright, so let's go on to the next one. Okay, so this is from user etc, etc, etc. You will be tagged, so you'll know. You can come and see what the answer is. Are these things exist, or it's a fantasy concept? Okay, valid question, because we have a lot of these concepts that we speak about, the demons and magic and runes and all of this stuff within magic and spirituality, we find a lot in gaming now. So, and that's often considered to be a fantasy. And, we find it in books, fantasy books. So, very valid question. What we're talking about here exists. I guess that depends on your own perception of what is the difference between fantasy and reality, and also your own personal worldview and things like that. What exists in your worldview is going to be different to what exists in my worldview, and how I see the world compared to how you see the world. So that's going to be very different. But yes, we're talking about these entities, these spirits, these gods, these goddesses, talking about doing spell work and manipulating and moving and working with particular energetic forces, resonating and vibrating at different frequencies so we can accomplish something. All of these things we consider to be things which are real to us. They exist. And we say that, or at least I say that, can't speak for everybody, but I say that because I have experienced it firsthand. I'm very much a skeptic, a very healthy skeptic. So I do believe in things that I cannot see or cannot really experience yet, but I kind of have my doubts sometimes until I actually experience them. And a lot of the stuff I've experienced. I've experienced the movement of energy. I've experienced the feeling between the elemental energy of fire compared to water and how that feels in my own body. Physically feeling it. I have experienced talking to spirits. I've experienced, I say that not just from a fantasy point of view, because I have had proof. I have been given particular communications or messages which I would have never ever considered, or something I would have never ever thought of thinking or doing myself, or information which has been proven at a later stage, or all of these things. So yes, the longer you work with it, the more kind of solid proof you kind of get. But you have to do it. You've got to work with it in order to get that proof, and it does take a while. It takes time. But yes, these things in what we're talking about here is our reality, and they exist, not fantasy. Okay, so let's go on to the next one, and last question for today. This is from Kerry Strala 3973. Lee, I read the intro to Pseudomonarchia Daemonon, which is Johann Weyer, and got concerned that Agares is a part of the Christian worldview. Do the demons predate the Christian God? There's going to be a lot of speculation and debate here, but the Christian God, yes. Again, that depends on which Christians you're talking about. Some Christians are going to still connect with an older Hebraic God, but the majority of them, the Christian God is an egregore. It's a creation, or creation from development from something that had a root in there somewhere that was older, but now it's new. It's completely new. But it's still one of the most potent egregores we have in existence. So just because we say an egregore instead of a god, don't think that doesn't come without power. There's a lot of power within that. Okay, so do the demons predate the Christian God? Yes. Do they predate the Hebraic God or the Sumerian gods, or something like that? Which all of these things kind of you find roots in. Yes and no. It depends on which demon you're talking about. If we go into the Sumerian, we've got Enlil, Ea, and we've also got Pazuzu, which a lot of people work with in respect as being their pantheon within Daemonolatry. Again, the chthonic spirits. And then maybe later we have the inclusion of some other particular gods and goddesses, which came at a bit of a later stage, depending on the development of culture and things like that. So, can't really say does one predate the other, but definitely in regards to the Christian God itself, that is a modern creation. But you're concerned that Agares is a part of a Christian worldview. The book you are reading is a Christian worldview, and that's why that you get that interpretation. As an example, if I were to write a book about Jesus Christ, it would be not about or not from a Christian perspective. It would be from a magician's perspective of the antinomian behavior of Jesus, and probably be an examination of I think it was 13 years that he disappeared, and the story kind of has that big hole in it, and he went off with I've forgotten the name of the tribe of the people now, and it's not coming to me anyway. But it is speculated that he went off to learn magic, and he came back and he would perform miracles and was performing them beforehand, but just better now. So yeah, he was a magician, and antinomian in behavior. He was always working against society. In many regards, I would actually say he was a Satan, because he was the adversary to what was the society of the time. So that would be my viewpoint of that particular topic, which would be very, very, very different to if a Christian were to write about it. So in this regard, this is a Christian writing about demons, and you're going to get a Christian worldview, as opposed to somebody who is a demonolator writing about these spirits. Completely different worldview, completely different interpretations. So you've got to bear that in mind when you are reading these grimoires, is that they do come from a Christian worldview. They are based in a Solomonic grimoire format and understanding, and you're going to get a Christian worldview. But at the same time, does it really matter if the demons predated a god which is considered to be Christian? Does it actually matter that they are older, or that the Christian god's older? I don't think it does. I don't think it matters at all. Because there are going to be older gods that are going to oppose particular spirits within the realm of the chthonic spirits, which is mostly the pantheon that demonolators work with. They're going to oppose them. If you're going to Sumerian, Babylonian mythology and cosmologies, you are going to find that there are forces which work against each other, and that's it's kind of like, this was before the whole good and evil thing, which kind of started with the Zoroastrians, but you're still going to get these opposing forces, because you can't talk about balance if you don't have opposing forces, because if there aren't opposites, there wouldn't be a concept of equilibrium or balance or anything like that. So you do have to have these opposing forces in order to bring them together and create this equilibrium. So you're going to get these concepts of particular gods or goddesses or deities or spirits or daemons or daemons or whatever terminology we're going to use, which are going to, within the mythologies, within the storytelling, is going to have this one's going to oppose the other one, and through that opposition we then create a tension, and that tension has a particular purpose, and then we bring everything into equilibrium, etc., 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 depending on what the story is and the mythology. So I don't think it really matters. I think we need to look past the whole idea of the demons are older than the Christian gods, or the Christians stole this and the Christians stole that. Most of the time we keep saying that. We've been saying that for years, and it's been proven wrong anyway. So we've got to stop saying those things as well. So we just need to get past the whole Christian thing, really. If you're going to be constantly thinking, is this Christian worldview? You do need to do that because you need to examine your own worldview and see if it fits or not. But if you're constantly going back to this whole idea of, oh, this is Christian worldview, I'm going to reject it, you're just rejecting parts. You're not actually examining why you're rejecting them. And that examination is very important to understand why you're doing it, and what benefits you get out of it. Because there could be something within the Christian worldview which benefits you personally, and that means that it should not be rejected. It can be incorporated. I mean, just because it's Christian worldview, and a majority of the Christian worldview is something which I think we should be rejecting, because it is all about my way or the highway. I know the absolute and honest truth. There is only one truth. There is only one God, etc. All of these things, in our own perspective, understanding, worldview, that's completely wrong. I'm just going to let the plane go over. But at the same time, there could be things in the Christian that you brought with you from your Christian worldview that work for you, that benefit you. So, it's no good just outright rejecting them. Understand why you're rejecting things before you reject them. If you go into a lot of the older texts, like the Nag Hammadi texts, if you go into Gnosticism and things like that, there's a lot of interesting aspects within these texts, especially Nag Hammadi, the Book of Thomas. There's some very pagan things in there, which put animals before people, which kind of like counters what a lot of people understand within Christianity. So there's a lot of, I think we get this view of Christianity from the people who are really Paulians, or church. It's Paulianity or churchianity. Christianity, I think, is kind of just gone by the wayside. It's just, Paul came along and decided to create a religion, which Jesus didn't even agree with. He rejected religion, organized religion anyway. So we've got the people who kind of give it a bad rap. And then you've got the book, the Bible, which isn't even complete. It's a book that was constructed. A load of people got together in somewhere in the 300 AD time frame. These people came together and decided, okay, we're going to put this part in the book, but this part over here, no, let's just leave that out. And there's thousands and thousands of texts which were rejected and not put into this final Bible. We even had the books of Apocrypha, which were in the Bible, and still remained in the Roman Catholic Bible for a long period. And it was only recently, in the past 10 or 20 years, probably got the time frame wrong, but that's the recent I'm kind of talking about, where it was completely removed from the Roman Catholic Bible. There may be still some churches around that do actually have the books of Apocrypha in their Bible, but that's been removed. And when I asked why the books of Apocrypha were removed in my church that I belonged to my, at the time it was my youth pastor, the answer was because there were no prophecies. So it got removed. It was invalid. It was useless. I thought that was crazy. But you've got all these texts, thousands and thousands of texts. Have a look at the Nag Hammadi texts. They're actually incredible. And yeah, I think we need to kind of get past this whole idea of it's Christian worldview, they're completely just immediately reject it. There are a lot of things we do need to reject, but there are a lot of things that can actually benefit you. So don't think just because it has the word Christian means that it should just be rejected, because that in itself is actually falling into a Christian worldview, because the Christian worldview is, if it's not Christian, reject it. And we are doing exactly the same thing. If it's Christian, reject it. outright, no questions asked. Okay, so just be careful of these things. Just the simple thing, you can fall into the trap of just falling into the Christian worldview by doing something like that. So, question. Always, you've got to keep questioning the whole time. Yeah, anyway. Totally got off track there. Alright, that's it for today. 3 questions. There we go. Okay. So I will see everybody next week. Have a good one. Cheers for now. Bye-bye.